Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How you doing? Russ here from Porky's Corner, the biggest gob in sport. We say the things on here that nobody dares say. Today we're joined by a new kid that I'm excited about. Who's been on here now.
Hello.
Anthony, how are you doing?
Yeah. All right then, Porky. How are you?
All right,
Morning to you.
welcome back to the commission. What are you on with?
Sorry,
Welcome back to the commission. What are you on with today? It's cold, isn't it?
it is freezing, isn't it? Typical English cold weather. Not as bad as Canada Bob, though, is it? Because that's some proper cold out there, isn't it?
You'd be all right banging some bird in a Ford Capri on Bob Street, wouldn't you?
I think in mid-stroke you'll freeze up, wouldn't you? I've been to Canada once. I had a former girlfriend was Canadian, and I remember getting off at the airport there, and I'm standing outside waiting for her, and it was something like -20, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw her pull up, I meant to go to the car, and my feet was almost stuck to the pavement because the heat that's coming from your feet through to the pavement through your shoes
Yeah.
was freezing. It was that cold.
Yeah, I can imagine, mate. I can imagine.
Unbelievably cold.
Yeah, I can imagine it being very, very cold. I don't mind visiting Bob out there, but you'd have to take your Berghaus coat or something else. I want you to keep warm.
That's good. The other thing I also say, remember that I'm in England at the moment, but I'm
Yeah,
normally in Mexico.
yeah,
And I tell you what, Porky, I wouldn't mind having hosting you down there. It's a lovely boxing area. You
yeah,
know, there's huge amounts of gyms. The level of boxing in Mexico is very, very high, right? And
yeah,
they have a lot of in the part of Mexico where I am, right, which is the Mexican
yeah.
Riviera. There's a lot of Cubans that come over, so they're all in the gyms in Cancun and places like Playa.
Cancun, yeah,
Yeah, what you'd do to come to see me, you'd fly into Cancun, and I'm about an hour south of Cancun in a car,
yeah. Oh,
and in a
brilliant,
place called Playa del Carmen. And they got
brilliant.
lots. I could. There's a. I'm very friendly with a lot of the gym owners there because obviously I go in there and when you see the sparring and everything else, they're very very different to what you do in Europe, right? For in
Yeah,
Europe, you have a sort of the amateurs are all point system, everything else. In Mexico, they train killers. You're going in there to do damage to people, and that's why you see that a lot of Mexican fighters tend to, particularly Eddie Hills back in the day,
yeah.
all his fighters were becoming unstuck when they fought Mexicans.
Eddie Hills with his 6-0 bullshit CV. Right.
You're like a dog with a bone. You ain't letting that go. It's funny though. It is
Well,
funny.
the funny thing is, you see, when he come out with it's actually 2-0 actually, but he added his dad to it, Frank Smith twice, and some other dude. But they actually got this lunatic sat on IFL talking about when he fought Eddie. But if you could check the rules, Julian McGowan pointed it out that you can't have move arounds at that age. You know what I mean? If he's had a gym spar, fair enough. Just say it was a gym spar. Don't
Right.
say it were classed as an amateur fight because the late Eric Guy, told me that it never happened, and he had all amateur records going back years and years. So, and he dealt with Matchroom for years. So why would Eric Guy, who's got everything on tape, say it's a load of horse manure?
Yeah, and not only that, as you pointed out, old Baz has got a production company, and for sure, if his son was doing amateur fights, there would be footage.
Yeah, of course there would. His only son.
Yeah.
And why would they want to call him Eddie Hills and not Hearn? He'd be bragging to death, wouldn't they, that he's somewhere a boxer, old Bazzer Epstein?
Absolutely. And for all of Eddie's faults, I tell you one thing he is good at. The guy's a salesman. He's a natural born salesman, and he's very good. And look at what he sold us, Joshua and everything else. He's very, very good as that.
So there's
But you're
Callum
right.
Smith as well, didn't he?
Yep. He's listen, you got to give flowers where they're due. They're not due in amateur boxing. They are due in learning how to. In fairness, I'll tell you what I think he's done with Joshua. it's a rinse and repeat, like what we spoke
Yeah,
about the last time,
yeah,
because Bazza did it with Eubank Senior, didn't he?
yeah.
Right, and Joshua is almost his career is almost a mirror image of Eubank Senior, other than Eubank Senior had a chin on him.
Yeah. They did it with AB Hyde as well, didn't they? This roadman,
Correct.
AB Hyde.
Until he ran into the Big Daddy Bo.
Until he ran into who?
Bo, Riddick Bo.
Oh, he ran into Big Daddy Bo, all right, didn't he?
Oh, that was just and that there you go. That shows you the levels.
It does, mate. It absolutely does. What do you think to Johnny Horsecock's comments regarding Tyson Fury's not done, he's not done yet, and all that nonsense? Hey.
I think he's keeping Fury. Again, it's what you say, and again, it's something that I like about you. You cut through the bullshit and the narratives because boxing, as a visceral sport, doesn't need narratives. And I think Johnny Horsecock saying, "Oh, Tyson's not done," is keeping him relevant, keeping him in the mix. When all you look at is manipulation. I actually think that Tyson Fury is waiting to see what his next move is. I think there is too much money on the table for him to walk away.
Yeah,
And I think he also knows that the Joshua fight is always there. So what he's going to do, he's about himself. As you say, there are no friends in boxing.
No.
Right?
No, mate.
He's about himself. And what he needs to do is to say, what is the easiest way for me to make another pound note?
Yeah.
And Johnny's doing his, doing his PR, shall we say?
Well, Johnny's learnt off the best, hasn't he? He learnt off Brendan Ingle, didn't he? And he's learnt off Eddie Hills, hasn't he? About what to say and do. He's been around Bricktop. I know him and Bricktop. There's no love lost there. And they
Right.
pretend they like each other, but I can assure you they do not.
Right.
So, but what you've got in boxing, they'll see each other at a show, give each other the nod and handshakes and all that. Then they'll walk off and they'll both say at the same time as they walk in different directions, tosser. That's what people do in boxing because I've seen it for years. I was like, wow. People used to come into Big Ron's office and I'd be sat there and I'd be thinking, what am I going to say here? Because I know Dennis can't stand these and I know vice versa. And I'd see him high-fiving and, I'd have to go put kettle on and all this. I'm thinking, what do I do here? Do I spit in the drinks or what? Or I'll just make him a drink and sit quiet. So I just used to sit back in that white chair next to Dennis's, my leg over my other leg. I'd sit there and I'd watch and I'd think, these can't stand the sight of each other. But you let it unfold them. It was really, really strange for me to see this kind of thing, the general two-facedness of it. Because if I can't stand somebody, I don't want to be in the same room as them. So after these people leave, I'd be like, what's going on here? And he'd say, look, I'm smarter than the average bear, or leave it with me, we need them down the line, or I've got to do it best for my fighters. I see like a politician, Ron. You know what I mean? And that would after like a 6 month, I'd be seeing it. I'd be thinking, how two-faced is this sport? You know what I mean? And that's why, Anthony, I set Porky's Corner up about 2.5 years after I started with Big Ron. I set it up because I thought, hang on a minute, this is not going way I want it to go, this, and I can see what's going on. The general two-facedness of them and how they all come crawling back. It's like a merry-go-round, isn't it? You see, people in boxing who are looking after certain fighters, they'll go through 8, 9, 10 managers. See where I'm coming from?
Yeah, well, your personality, Porky, which is why I like Porky's Corner, and the reason I like it is what you see is what you get. What's written on the outside of the tin is what's in the tin.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't like that level of authenticity. In boxing, it's all fake friends. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. And to me, having fake friends is what keeps the really good and proper fights that we should have being made. Because, we'll gaslight them a bit, but we're never really going to do it or whatever. Whereas and I know We want to know, are these guys going to get their coats off and get at it, or are they not going to do that? And if they're not going to do that, thank you very much. We'll move on to something else. And that doesn't happen because of all these fake friends, as you say. And I get it. I'm like you, right? I want to know, or I don't want, or I want to know, good or bad, I want to know, right? And you don't want to waste time. And boxing is all about the shenanigans and the runarounds and the this and the that and keeping grudges and this and you know.
Well, look at Tyson Fury, Anthony, right? I remember when he was on the outside looking in, you know, after he beat Vladimir, then he went from one bad situation to the next, dug himself in the hole.
Right.
And I remember what was said. I'm not going to repeat on here about brick top. Oh, yeah. I remember.
And then look what's happened since, when him and Bricktop and my favourite person, Don King, Aram and all those guys were all in America doing this, and Tyson Fury's doing that. And it makes you wonder.
Well, listen, you don't see Peter and Huey hanging out at back of Bricktop there. Obviously, it's a bit hard for Huey at the moment because obviously his dad and Big John don't get on, do they? So where does that leave people working with Huey? Because Tyson's such a big draw. Nobody wants to throw Huey a bone. There's worse fighters than Huey getting thrown bones. I mean, look at the Lazy Rhino.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Where's Huey? Why ain't Huey getting any phone calls or any slots? Because it's politics, isn't it, mate? Because his dad won't kiss anybody's arse. But other people, the brass neck on them, they're prepared to sell their souls to get on a show. And like I said, look at Tyson Fury. For everything he used to say about certain promoters, he's a brass.
Yep. And I think it was the great man Lennox Lewis called it politricks. Is that correct?
Called it what?
Politricks.
Politricks, yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's what he's. It's true. Peter Fury is a really, really good, down-to-earth boxing guy. Completely different to his brother. And anybody associated with him, for whatever reason, is getting thrown out. Probably because Peter Fury is, like you and me, honest people. What you see is what you get.
Yeah. This
is what I want to do with my fire. This is what I'm doing. And. Whereas, if you're a brass, all we know is that they'll do anything for money. And, you know, to me, it's not honourable, is it? If you'll do anything for money, you're not an honourable person because you could always be corrupted. That's my view on it.
Correct. If Fury had any knackers, he'd be announcing a fight with Usyk, a third one, because Usyk hasn't got a dance partner. And I think they could really make that happen if they wanted to. They made Chisora happen, so they could make the Usyk one, but I don't think he wants to go near him. But do you think that Joshua don't want to go near Dubois because he's parked up? They're kind of like in no man's land, the pair of them, aren't they, Anthony? Do you think?
Correct. The problem that Fury's got, trying to call out Usyk again, is I remember when Usyk was a middleweight rabbit, right? That's Fury's words, not mine. Yeah. Number one. And number two, if I'm right, Usyk's got a loss against Sean Porter in the amateurs. Is that correct?
Yeah, he has, and he never got to avenge it, although he avenged 11 of his 15 losses. He had his 335 and 15, and he avenged 11. But Porter was the one that he didn't get a chance to avenge. Apparently, he got robbed.
Right. Well, could you imagine what that does to Fury's ego? That somebody who's got a loss, that somebody was campaigning at welterweights, etc., someone who's got a loss against him in the amateurs has schooled him twice. Right? And let's have it right. It was a schooling. The first fight should have been a stoppage, right? So my view is that Tyson Fury is going nowhere near Usyk again. What he's going to do is he wants to look for another nice, easy touch, right? Not only that, he's probably got Paris in his ears as well, saying, listen, you got to give this up because Fury hasn't got the legs that he had 5 years ago. He just hasn't. So he's getting hit. You know, and the problem is you don't want to be getting hit when you're a heavyweight. you know. Regarding Joshua, Joshua's had the worst possible outcome. There's always been the rumors about against Dubois and everything else, and Dubois stood him on his head, literally. The guy's breakdancing. In fact, I remember, Porky, I think I sent you that cartoon where they had Joshua breakdancing when he's trying to make the count. Again, how do you? My view is it's not Joshua. I think it's his handlers are saying, how do we rehabilitate that? And in my opinion, I don't think you can, because we don't want it happening again, or they don't want that happening again.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. 2 seconds. Let me just, can I just ask you this question? I've just got to open garage door for somebody coming here.
Sure. So would you like me to answer it while you're away?
Yeah, answer it. It'll probably take me about a minute to sort this. Joshua Buatsi going in on Tunde Ajayi, aka Lion Bars in the camp. Dream it, believe it, become it. He's got Anthony Yarde, 34-year-old. In 10 years as a pro, he's got a Southern Area and a Commonwealth belt, but yet Buatsi's going in on Tunde. Do you think that it's looking like it's going to be Buatsi beating Callum Smith and then Tunde? What do you think?
Right. Yeah, let me answer that while you're away, Porky. I absolutely see that. So what they're doing is building some kind of a beef, right? Tunde was building a beef with, is it Pat Barrett? And that's just to sell the Lyndon Arthur 3 fight, which we don't want. My view is that Buatsi has got a far better CV and has fought far better people, more sort of 50-50 type fights than Anthony Yarde has. And I think Anthony Yarde has had the worst career advice ever. Clearly talented, clearly could have gone a lot further than he has. And all he's done is fought absolutely nobody's. And then he's fought a killer on the slide in terms of Kovalev. And then he's fought the other killer, which is Beterbiev. And you just think, how does that work? You know, I actually think, as I said, he's been very badly advised, and good friends have taken advantage of him by looking after his.
Go on, mate. I'm back here. Go on, you were saying.
Good. Yeah, no, I was just saying, just to paraphrase myself, I think you're right. What they're doing, Buatsi's creating a slight sort of beef, isn't he? Because it looks like if he takes care of Callum Smith, the next one up is Yarde. Hence why Yarde and Britsop are now talking. I absolutely think that's happening, and to me, it's a very sad indictment of how Yarde has been guided. I just do not know any other fighter with the potential that Yarde had that has fought absolutely nobody's, and then all of a sudden you're jumping up 3 levels to fight killers. You know, it's not good preparation.
Yeah, Joshua Buatsi, in my opinion, is not experienced enough to talk about any kind of beef, because he won an Olympic bronze medalist 9 years ago, and we've not heard a peep out of him. And nobody would know him if he walked down the street. We are a 10-gallon hat on his head, would they, and cowboy boots?
Correct. And here's what I think's funny. I'm going to ask you a question on this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What has happened? Why has Buatsi, for whatever reason, not had the push behind him? Because he had the background, he's had all the stuff, and all of a sudden he's taking obscure fights, and then he went to Sky and he wasn't getting the big promotions, and he's fallen out with this person and that. But why is his career, it's not as bad as Yarde's, in my opinion, but it's been, I wouldn't say mishandled, but fumbled.
Well, my opinion of that is this. Eddie Hills has created this persona around boxing that if you're not engaging, nobody's interested in you. And Anthony Yarde, he's not that engaging, but he's got a mouthpiece in his trainer beating the drum for him. Man, he dream it, believe it, become it. Lion bars in the fridge.
Oh,
all that nonsense they come out with. Whereas Buatsi, Eddie Hills couldn't do nothing with him, and neither could Big Meech and his 258 pony management company. They couldn't do that with him. He's like a damp squid. And
Right.
you've got Tony Bellew running around saying he's like Andre Ward and Michael Spinks, sorry, rolled into one, or was it Michael Moore? I forget now. And I'm like,
Uh,
what?
uh, well, I'm not so sure about that. We're going to see with the Callum Smith. I think that Buatsi's going to have too much for Callum Smith in the upcoming fight, but it's strange. And not only that, I think you're right because Tunde Ajayi is mates with your best friend as well, isn't it, Big Malk?
Big Mal with his giant bins.
What characters? They got that. They've got that. They got a podcast. I can't remember what it's called. But they do a podcast. I think on YouTube. Do they? I think
Yeah,
they
they
do.
do. I forgot what it's called. It's that
Performance something. I can't remember. But they're on there. But it's a bit of a shame because here you've got two very good British light heavyweights, and from a concerned boxing fan's point of view, one of their careers has been completely mismanaged, the other one's been fumbled, and they still haven't fought. And even now, when they're fighting, to me, Yarde's on the slide. He's not a spring chicken. And it's a bit of a shame because I think the Buatsi fight is now coming, 3 or 4 years too late.
Yeah, this is how I look at it, right, with Callum Smith, though. He's had 5 fights since 2019.
Yeah, it's not active enough, is it?
No, and it makes you wonder what's going on, really. 5 fights, so his tools are clearly not that sharp, really. Really, are they, Anthony? Do you think?
Correct. I think that he's there as I wouldn't call it a sacrificial lamb. He's expected to lose and lose convincingly against Buatsi.
Yeah.
And what I think that's the reason that they matched him like that is that what that does is that then beautifully sets up the Yarde fight.
Well, you've got to look at it like this, right? He looked terrible. Shut up. Shh. He looked terrible against John Ryder in 2019. The one before that were an old man, middleweight, pumped up, Hassan and Cam, right? The one before that in 2018 were George Groves, a one-armed bandit. The one
Correct.
before that were Nicky Holtzken, a kickboxer. The one before that, Eric Skoglund, and the one before that, Luke Blackledge. So, who has Callum Smith actually beat, really? George Groves, one-armed bandit.
Yeah.
He was a former world champion.
But he was seriously injured at the end of that end of the competition.
And Rocky Fielding, a WBA regular man that beat Zuga, who Paul Smith took 12 rounds. So Callum Smith, to say he's got millions in the bank, has not really achieved anything, considering he's not engaging. In fact, the man's a giant mute with a face like a bag of nails. You know what I mean? So
I'd agree with
that. He hasn't really done anything for me, but all the big hype around him is this giant, massive super middleweight. Could you imagine what the Cobra, Carl Froch, would have done to him?
Yeah. I'll quote you, Button Moon.
Button Moon. Carl Froch would have cut him down like cheddar cheese, mate, like he did Groves in rematch. He would have set about him. It would have been savage and brutal, like when they used to spar when they were upright and scared to death. Do you know what I mean? And he used to rotate him at ring Froch, didn't he? Pascal, Bellew, Callum Smith, keep them coming. And none of them could get near him. And Bob Achisafe, I'll put him in that bracket as well. He used to rotate them. You know what I mean? When he were bang on weight with a month to go. So I don't really rate Callum Smith at all. Only people that rated him were his promoter, and he's there to big him up. You know, like Billy Nelson. If Billy Nelson were training Benny from Crossroads, he'd beat New Muhammad Ali, wouldn't he? Or Tunde Ajayi training, I don't know, Den Watts from EastEnders. Do you know what I mean? He'd beat new Aaron Pryor, wouldn't he? Do you see where I'm coming from?
I absolutely do. And coming back to your comment about Carl Froch, I want to just talk about the two Groves fights.
Yeah.
That just goes to show you the mental side of boxing, because it was very clear that Groves was Froch's mandatory in the first fight,
Yeah.
and Froch just didn't rate him and didn't take him seriously.
Yeah.
And he almost paid. If it wasn't for his legendary chin, and I
Yeah.
reckon that Froch's chin, the only person I know who's got a better chin than him is my favourite fighter, the marvelous one, Marvin Hagler.
Yeah.
Right? If it wasn't for Froch's chin, Grozy would have got him out of there in the first round.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when he took him seriously,
In the
right, and
second
said,
one,
all
yeah.
right, in the second fight, you saw what talent that guy had. And for all his stuff and everything else, I tell you what, Frochie, for a British fighter, has got one of the most deepest CVs that I've looked at. He's just for a guy who's not technically good at boxing, he's a hard man.
I'll tell you a story about that first Groves fight, shall I? went to his house.
Right.
In Nottingham. I'm not going to say where it is. I went to his house and he bought this big boy mansion, right? And he had in the garage a really fancy treadmill. He had a proper punch bag on and other bits and bobs. He's had a gym built and everything now, and he were doing his road work on treadmill.
Right.
I never said anything because it's none of my business, but I did think, he wasn't taking Grove serious. But in the rematch, he did the road work and he moved out. He wasn't travelling back and forward all the time. He moved out to Sheffield and he was stopping in a bed sit with Warren Beister, the heavyweight amateur kid.
Right.
Do you know what I'm on about?
No, I don't.
Yeah, they were in bunk beds.
Right.
In Monday to Friday, and he'd go home at weekends. Whereas before, he were going home every day, and it's like 50 mile an hour from Sheffield to Nottingham on the M1, and it can jar you and tire you out, that kind of thing. But he got stuck in, and he left everything in the ring, no stone unturned. But it just shows you that you can't cut corners in boxing. Clinton Woods, when he came to end of his career, he personally told me, it's even on my channel if you go look, that when he fought Tavares Cloud, instead of doing his 6 mile runs, he was doing 5 mile. Because you're coming to end, aren't you? And Carl Zagiwat, same. Because you just can't find that zip and that vigor. Do you know what I mean? But Froch left it all in ring in the second.
And he certainly did. He reminds me of what, again, my favourite fighter, Marvellous Marvin Hagler, says. It's really difficult to get up at 4:30 in the morning and go for a run if you're sleeping in silk pajamas. And he's absolutely correct.
Well,
and one of the reasons why I like Marvellous so much is what a professional he was. Always in shape, no shenanigans, professional as you could get them, and he does the work. That's why when you put killers in the ring with him, he ran them over.
Yeah. Remember
John Mugabe, who was an
WBC former middleweight champion, and he fought Hagler.
What a fight that was! And he hit Hagler in the 4th round with, I can't remember whether it was a hook or an uppercut, right? And Hagler bit down his gum shield and said, "Come on, man, what are you doing? I'm going to have my feast on the beast." And he absolutely not only schooled him, he ran him over in that 11th round when he just kept hitting him. And when he went down, he's gesturing for him to get back up.
Yeah. Okay, well, 2 more talking points to go. Let's have a look what we're on here. We've got about 11 minutes left. Right. The White Rhino, a.k.a. Lazy Rhino, and Johnny Bosch, Elmer Fudd, Romford Bull, whatever you want to call him, Liam Cameron and Ben Whittaker, that's a done deal. This one here, it looks like it's going nowhere, doesn't it? The White Rhino keeps saying it's close, but wasn't Tyson Fury and Joshua close 4 years ago in a done deal, according to the powers that be? Do you think they're going to keep the Elmer Fudd away from the Lazy Rhino?
100%, Porky. 100%. Elmer Fudd is a big ticket seller. Eddie Hills.
Yeah.
Right? He's a big ticket seller. And I think I saw, I can't remember which channel it was on. I saw him talking about the fight, and he was talking about numbers. And in the interview, he says, well, I haven't spoken to him about numbers, but basically what he's saying is that he's going to give him an extremely low ball offer, right? In
Yeah.
other words, he doesn't want to put a guy who supports his shows at a critical time for Matchroom. They don't want to give him another loss against somebody who's really a busted flush already. That's what I see is going on. Eddie Hills is making sure he is protecting a cash cow. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, agree with you. Right, let's move on then to the show this Saturday, which I will be watching myself. And on it, we've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights. We've got Buatsi, Callum Smith. How do you see that going?
I reckon Buatsi's got too much for him, as we've just been saying earlier. Callum Smith hasn't really done anything, and the wins he has are leagues below. I'd say 2 levels below what Buatsi's going to be now. So I see Buatsi winning that and winning that quite comfortably. I don't see a stoppage, but I see a unanimous decision on that.
There.
Yeah.
So Buatsi on points.
Yeah, Buatsi on points, but a canter.
Yeah. I see it like 116, 112 kind of fight.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
no, it's 9 fights. Sorry, there's Mohamed Alakal versus Engel Gomez. Then we've got Zayed Almayoff against Janotis Rodrigo. Gomez did all over. I don't think anybody would be too bothered about them. The Buatsi Smith one, that's on early doors. What about Zile Zhang against Ajit Kabayel?
I reckon Caballel, this is his coming out party.
I do.
Right. The reason I say it is that, yes, Zhang's good and whatever. However, these are heavyweights. And the problem that you've got is that Zhang's, how old was he? 42 or 41, 42?
Yeah.
Right. He's good for 4 rounds. Right. And I think that Caballel is good enough to keep away from him early doors when he's dangerous. Right. And then start turning up the heat. And I actually say you'll probably get him out there because I reckon that, no fighter's beaten Father Time. And I think with Zhilei Zhang, he either gets rid of him really quick, which is a possibility, but I just think that Caballel's going to be too slick for him. So I'd see Caballel by a mid to late stoppage or a very easy points victory again.
Okay. Shaka Stevenson's not got an opponent. What do you think about that, Anthony?
Yeah, they had one, and then they've changed it, haven't they? He's the only person on that card I would say is a bit sort of, is he exciting? But what are they? They're going to do a TBA, is it? Because you actually just said that to me.
TBA.
When does that come out? Because he had somebody before which they were criticising, weren't they?
I don't know. Do you know what? You know what? When people come out and they hear different stories from different camps and all that, who do you believe? Do you know what I mean? So I always leave a question mark against it. The kid ain't got an opponent, and I'm not really bothered about him anyway, really, because he's been fighting cream puffs, in my opinion.
Sorry, you go.
No, I just think he's been fighting cream puffs, and I just want to see him in a test now. Lomachenko were testing himself in his first fight. These are still going strong, and they're not really in tests, are they?
Yeah, that's classic American Floyd Mayweather sort of business model. I'll tell you what would be nice is if Turkey and Tank could just suddenly come up with something, big enough money, and they stick tanking against Stevenson would be nice, wouldn't it?
Okay. Virgil Ortiz, box rec number 3 against Israel Madridov, box rec number 4. That's a cracker, isn't it?
Absolute 50-50.
Yeah.
Cool. I pick 'em fight 50-50. And that's what we love about boxing, isn't it? Because
it is,
you know, and I know, and all the people listening to this podcast, what we love about boxing is give us competitive fights, because then it's how one style goes against another, and 2, if it's not going the way of a particular fighter, can he adjust? Correct. And that's what we like. And that fight has got that written all over it.
Carlos Adames, box rec number 5 against Amzad Shiraz, box rec number 2. Although I don't know how he's got to number 2 because his best win's Tyler Denny.
Yeah.
It's weak
I
for the
reckon
middleweight division, isn't it? But who you got in that one?
I've got this is to me, I reckon that this is a Hamza Shiraz coming out party because I've noticed that he's an ambassador for Riyadh season as well. Did you know that?
Well, he would be, wouldn't he? Because he's Bricktop's man, isn't he?
Correct. So I reckon that they've managed him really well. And that Carlos Adames as well is a Dominican fighter, isn't he?
Yeah.
Right. The kid that beat him, I looked up the records of the kid that beat him. The kid that beat him then went on a three fight losing streak. He's not really that good,
Yeah.
and hasn't challenged for world honours. So I reckon that this Carlos Adames is there to make Hamza Shiraz look good. And if Shiraz could keep him on the end of his jab and keep him, because he's what, 6'3", he's huge for the weight. He's very, very tall for the weight.
Yeah.
I reckon it's a planned coming out party for Hamza Shiraz, who is Bricktop's, golden boy to be. And, he's Turkey's right-hand man. So I reckon that's what that's set up to do.
I agree, but I don't want to hear all this Tommy Hearns talk. Do me a favour, Bricktop.
No, he's not nearly as well. Haven't seen anything nearly as good as an all-time great like Tommy Hearns. What a man he was! But that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. 2 more fights to go, and we've got 3 minutes 40 left. Right, Daniel Dubois against Joseph Parker, and Beterbiev against Bivol. Beterbiev the main dog, undisputed. Bivol box rec number 3. Who you got in that, and then we'll do Dubois Parker on.
Right. I have got my man Beterbiev. I really think that Beterbiev now, I'm actually going to go bold on this, Porky.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Beterbiev by late stoppage.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going to say that is that when they fought back last year, Beterbiev was coming off of a knee injury, right? And because it's been being done so quickly, I don't think he's going to deteriorate so much because he's 40. Right, so I reckon that Beterbiev is going to put even more pressure on him and wear down Bivol beforehand, because Bivol was at the end of that was surviving. Right, in my opinion, he was surviving, and I think that it was a proper loss for him. Right, I just think that Beterbiev has just he's very heavy-handed, and his boxing skills are very, very good. And not only that, Bivol's not a heavy puncher, is he?
No, he ain't. No, but he's got skills to burn, hasn't he?
Oh, he's got skills to burn. But I reckon because Beterbiev knows how to cut the ring down, right? So what I'm saying is, if Beterbiev puts more pressure on him, I think he wins more convincingly. And let's have it right. I think I saw a video of Bivol's arms and his hands, where he had the high guard and he's taking Bivol's shots, and you could see the bruising on his arms. You just need one of those to go through, because that guy has got the touch of death in both fists he has. And I reckon that he's going to get through this time. Now he knows what he's up against.
Okay, and now we've got 1 minute left. Who you got, Dubois or Parker?
Again, I don't buy it that Dubois is going to run him over. I think Parker's cute, right? And I would say, if you put a gun to my head, I'd say Dubois. But I say a 55-45. That's what I'm saying. I actually think that Joseph Parker is going to be slick enough to give Dubois some problems. And I would say, to me, I think it's a 50-50. And the reason I think it's a 50-50 is that they're both heavyweights. And with heavyweights, one punch really does change it. I don't see Dubois running him over like he did with Joshua. Right, but I'd make him the slight favourite.
Okay,
but I wouldn't be surprised if I see both of them touch the canvas as well. Because the thing about Dubois, yes, he's got fists of thunder. He's hittable.
Right out of time, mate.
Lovely. Thanks a lot, talking boxing, Porky.
Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you again.
No worries, my man. You
Cheers,
keep
mate.
up the good work. Thank you very much, everybody.
Right.
Support Porky.
Cheers, mate.
God bless you, Porky.
God
Thank you
bless.
very much again. Bye-bye.
Let me just finish on this. Robert Smith, why are you licensing Ryan Laybourne? Norton 25 and 2 draws. Hey, why are you giving this man a license? 27 fights, no victories, and he's got 2 fights lined up. Pop, pop, bang, Robert Smith, you clown. Going to get people hurt. Go on, peace out. Been great to have Anthony Austin on. Top man.